Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include NetEase and Blizzard apparently getting back together after an ugly breakup, Elon Musk complaining that druids suck in Diablo 4, the Diablo 4 devs embracing letting players feel like they can break the game, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below, but right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. But before I move on, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Torchlight Infinite. Torchlight Infinite's an ARPG that I jump into at the start of every season. I just have a blast with the game. Every time we get that new fresh start, it's got this perfect mixture of fast progression, arcadey combat, fun loot, and robust character options. It's almost like a Path of Exile light. You see a lot of similar depth to PoE in many areas, without getting overly complex and overwhelming. You have active skills that you can modify in different ways, passive skills, multiple talent trees to put talent points into. There's also a robust suite of in-game tools. The devs really want you to not have to go outside of the game to do a lot of the stuff that as RPG players we feel we need to. So you have an in-game auction house, in-game price checker for that auction house. You got build guides directly accessible from in-game damage calculators. And they have an updated loot filter that lets you customize exactly what affixes you're looking for. The game's free to play with crossplay on PC and mobile, and they just released their new season, Twi-Nightmare, on December 28th. With this expansion comes a new hero, Lightbringer Rosa, a sword and board paladin type character. But rather than being that boring lawful good type, this is actually a really funny character, dropping F-bombs and just being completely unceremonious about her religion. It's a refreshing take on the trope. She's tanky and has many mechanics that focus on blocking and then retaliating. The expansion also adds 4 new skills, new outfits, exclusive pact spirits, and a limited time winter event. As for the theme itself, Twi-Nightmare, it's this interesting risk-reward system. You'll run into dream lotuses, and when you enter, you're either going to end up with a sweet dream or a nightmare. Every time you beat a sweet dream, you're going to stack a reward that you can collect later. Now, you can then keep entering dreams, going deeper and deeper like Inception, collecting more and more rewards, but if you get unlucky and run into a nightmare instead, then you'll have 6 chances to escape. And every time you fail, you lose a portion of your collected rewards until you've lost everything. The theme also includes a new crafting feature that lets you add special dream affixes on your gear, as well as a new hardcore mode. So jump in, give it a try. Torchlight Infinite is honestly a lot of fun. Click the link in the description and use the code to claim a bonus, but hurry up because this code is limited to the first 50,000 redemptions. Let's kick things off with news about NetEase and Blizzard. Alright, for anyone who doesn't know, if you are not a Chinese company, you cannot publish a game in China without partnering with a Chinese company. So for the longest time, NetEase was Blizzard's partner for publishing their games in China. This was a long-lasting partnership, but it came to an end last year. In November 2022, they announced that they would not be renewing their contract and that by January 2023, all Blizzard games operating in China, apart from Diablo Immortal, which is under a different contract, would no longer be accessible in China. And this was due to disputes over renewing the contract. There was a big falling out. NetEase live streamed the destruction of a Blizzard statue. That's how upset they were over whatever terms were being negotiated on Blizzard's side. So it's been almost a full year where players in China could not access Diablo 4, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, the only Blizzard game, Diablo Immortal, which again was under a different licensing agreement with NetEase, and that contract was still persisting. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to hear from Chinese sources that a new deal is either already established or is in the works. For a while, Blizzard was looking elsewhere, trying to find another partner. Tencent and NetEase are the 2 biggest names in this space. Tencent was a potential option. They were looking at other companies as well, trying to find the right partner to get their games back into China as soon as possible. But now apparently, and conveniently right after Bobby Kotick has exited the company, exited Activision Blizzard as CEO, now apparently NetEase and Blizzard are coming to some kind of agreement. Now, if I remember correctly, there were some whispers that part of the falling out had to do with Bobby Kotick and his goons and how they were treating NetEase in negotiations, so this could be a matter of honor and principle, or at least have something to do with it. But assuming that this is going to go through, that Blizzard will be once again partnering with NetEase, it's not going to be an instantaneous everything's back online now for players in China, because the infrastructure needs to be rebuilt. All the teams within China that were handling this, those were all dismantled months ago, so it could take another half a year just to rebuild that infrastructure so that the games can once again run in China. Now, China has been in the news quite a bit lately. We were talking about China last week when it came to loot boxes and other regulations of monetization within games. As we discussed in last week's video, China, the Chinese government has come out pretty hard on implementing some regulations to combat unethical monetization forms, or at least what a lot of us would consider to be unethical. Now, what we didn't mention last week was, following this announcement, shares in Tencent and NetEase, the two biggest, they're the two enormous companies worldwide, but within China, they're the two biggest video game companies. These two companies, their stocks dropped after the announcement to the tune of tens of billions of dollars in the share price going down. Now, since then, that has rebounded, potentially. Now, this is either a coincidence or after seeing the hit to their economy that the Chinese government will be taking, because I should specify, Tencent and NetEase are also affiliated with the government. In China, big corporations, big companies are a lot more closely tied to the government than in the West. NetEase and Tencent are like the two biggest tech companies in China, and the government is able to exert a lot of control over them. These companies follow government guidelines very strictly. Some people may go so far as to say that NetEase and Tencent are effectively wings of the Chinese government. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but there is a good amount of control that the government can exert on those corporations, and they do benefit from these companies doing well, bringing in a lot of revenue, and expanding China's global influence. So coincidentally, after these stock prices plummeted to the tune of tens of billions of dollars, China's government suddenly approved 105 domestic games. What does that mean? Well, again, China's gaming market is distinct from the Western world's. They have strict regulatory controls. You can't just publish a game in China, even if you are a Chinese company. The government must approve your game first. But just like all governments, it is a bureaucratic nightmare going through several layers of different agencies. Inefficient, it takes forever. And so 105 is actually a huge amount to have been greenlit all at once here. And of course, this did include titles from Tencent and NetEase. And following this, share prices did rebound somewhat. But what do you folks think happened here? Do you think this was a knee-jerk reaction to seeing the stock plummet, or was this all just a planned rollout? They just implemented a bunch of regulations, tightening those regulations on how monetization could work in games, and then they approved a bunch of games after that. Sound off in the comments. In other news, we got the official release announcement video for Fallout London. Now, if you have Fallout 4 or you're a fan of modding, this is a must-see. This is a huge Fallout 4 fan project. At least 50 people worked over 3 years to bring an absolutely DLC-sized mod that's going to release on April 23rd. They actually had to delay it a few months, but April 23rd is now the locked-in release date. This thing has 15 boroughs of London to openly explore, 7 unique settlements to build, about 200 quests. There's over 90,000 recorded dialogue lines, which is 50% more than in New Vegas or Skyrim, and almost as many as the base Fallout 4 has. And to give you some size of scale of how big the areas that they have built are, the vanilla Fallout 4 game map consists of just under 3,000 cells, and this mod adds just under 3,800. I love modding. It's one of my favorite things about PC gaming. This is one of the largest, if not the largest mod for Fallout 4 to date. And again, if you have Fallout 4, this is a must play, releasing in April. Moving on to some Diablo 4 news. Wowhead has consolidated a calendar on what we can expect for 2024 for Diablo 4 based on what we know so far. We're going to be getting our next dev livestream in January, where we're going to get more details about Season 3. which adds the gauntlet, the competitive mode with leaderboards. We can expect more endgame content in Season 3, the changes to Helltide that'll make Helltide almost always up. We can expect to get more sources of item power 925 gear. Then we can expect Season 4 coming in April, along with the big itemization rework and more endgame content. Then in summer, we can expect the full reveal of the Vessel of Hatred expansion, which will release in late 2024. That's going to have the new class and all the stuff that we spoke about in this video over here. And we can also expect to hear more about their updates to the codex system, loadouts where we can save different skill setups or gear setups, maybe word on loot filters, and more social features. For full details, you can check the Wowhead link. Then in other news, Diablo boss Rod Ferguson did an interview with Electric Playground Network recently. And I wanted to call out one particular tidbit here, where Rod said, quote, "Sometimes you focus on balance and not fun. Like, you can be like, everything has to be on the same level, and that you're really striving for fairness. But the thing about a Diablo game is that those overpowered moments, that when you feel like you're cheating or that you feel like you fool the development team by taking advantage of some exploit, it can be really, really fun. So that's what we've tried to embrace. And now in Season 2, the Ball Lightning Sorcerer is ridiculous, but we're just like, let them have their fun, we'll deal with it later." So this is confirmation that probably going forward now, if some new OP build emerges, they're not going to come out swinging the nerf hammer right away. They'll let it run for the season, presumably unless it's some kind of insane bug or an actual exploit. But if it's something that seems, my guess, this is my opinion, if it's something that seems invisible to the player, if the average player can't tell that what they're doing is an exploit or a bug, and they just think they're being strong, they'll probably leave that in for the season. And if it is way overpowered relative to other things, like Hoda Barbarian and Ball Lightning Sorcerer, they're probably going to then nerf it the next season and presumably buff other things as well. Nerfing and buffing, again, it's the balance that is necessary. I know some people advocate for always buffing. All of us D3 players were there to see what happens when all you do is ever buff and you have items that literally give you plus 40,000% more damage multipliers, and it just gets absolutely ridiculous. There's also a difference between nerfing and nerfing into the ground. You can nerf something to just be a little weaker and in line with the other most powerful stuff versus killing a build entirely. And I think that's something that we don't want to see happen. When we find this overpowered build that's really fun to play and we get to enjoy that play style, if then that just becomes unviable in the next season, as in it's not even competitive with the top builds anymore, that is generally a bummer. We ideally want a scenario where there's a bunch of, you have a wide selection of high-powered builds to choose from, so it's not about picking the best build, it's between picking among a variety of best builds and which playstyle you enjoy the most. Perfect balance is always impossible to achieve, but you do want to avoid having insanely more powerful outliers, because if you only have two crazy OP builds, well then, those are the only two builds that exist for a good segment of the community. I know not everyone cares about chasing after just what's the most powerful, but enough people do, and I don't see any reason why we can't make everyone happy. And speaking of class balance, Elon Musk recently tweeted, "What I like most about Diablo is how balanced the classes are and how much the game designers love druids." And this was dripping with sarcasm because he linked a screenshot from the max roll Abattoir of Zir leaderboards. These are self-reported leaderboards that shows the immense disparity where Hammer of the Ancients Barbarians are completely dominating, Ball Lightning Sorcerers are keeping up, and Druids are nowhere to be seen at all. They are by far the worst performing class in the Abattoir of Zir. They perform great outside of Abattoir, but they're just not competitive for the Abattoir. Now what's interesting is that on Reddit, you can see the original post that he tweeted said, "Character balance sucks. You might as well rename the game from Diablo to Barbarian." So it's unclear why he then modified this to the highly sarcastic comment. But we do know that Elon Musk does truly play Diablo 4. He does truly play it a lot. He has streamed himself playing it for extended periods as he's been testing streaming on his X Twitter platform. He has spoken about his build and talked through his gameplay in such a way that he is not just faking and having people level a character for him. He clearly plays the game and is rather good at it. Now again, in fairness, outside of the Abattoir, Druid performs very well. So I don't know that I would say class balance all around sucks. I think it's more just there's two very overperforming builds for the Barbarian and the Sorcerer. But yes, Druids can use some love next season. Also in Diablo news, in case you missed it, I released another lore video. That's 2 lore videos in just about 1 week, in fact. If you didn't catch our previous one, we gave some backstory leading up to D3 involving Cain and Leah, and now we've covered Act 1 of Diablo 3, ending with the death of Deckard Cain. And I was positively beside myself in grief. And in other news, the Marvel's Blade game that was revealed at the Game Awards a couple weeks back, well, that's only coming in 2027. This is according to industry insider Jeff Grubb. The Xbox title is being worked on by Arcane Lyon and published by Bethesda, and it's meant to be a mature single-player third-person game set in the heart of Paris. Specifically, Grubb said on the Xbox Era podcast, quote, Arcane's Blade. If you're looking to know when I can play that, then right now internally, they're expecting that to be sold on store shelves and digitally in the year 2027. That is the year they are aiming for with that game, at least as far as I know what Marvel is marking on their calendar. That means 2027 at the earliest. Don't expect it before that. In some Path of Exile news, the devs are giving away their annual free mystery box for the holidays. To redeem your free Affliction Mystery Box, all you gotta do is open the in-game shop. You don't have to buy anything, just open the shop, and the mystery box will be automatically added to your account, and you'll find it in your microtransaction stash. You gotta do it in-game though, not from the website. And it could take around 20 minutes for the redemption to go through. This mystery box will be available until January 8th. Full details in the link below. Then lastly, folks, I just wanted to extend a Happy New Year to everybody. Wishing you lots of health, most important. Without health, we have nothing else. Health, happiness, and success. 2023 was an amazing year for me. I'm very grateful to all of you that helped participate in my journey here. And whether you had a good or a bad 2023, here's to hoping that 2024 is an even better year. Let's go into it with positivity and optimism, and whatever current goal you are trying to achieve in your life right now, whether it's about hitting the gym, whether it's about pushing forward with your career, that first step is always the hardest, but get that first step down. That's all you got to do. And then all you got to do is take the second step. And then all you got to do is take the third step. And then all you got to do is take the fourth. And every step becomes easier and easier. But you have to take that first step. And now's the time to do it. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. Do it today. And that's gonna wrap up this week's video, but do be sure to check out last week's video in which we discussed the reveal that Sony is actually terrified of Microsoft. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.